jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in their perfect spots. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces, bringing joy forever. Puzzled hearts will solve the mystery. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in a perfect spot. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces, bringing joy forever. Puzzled hearts will solve the mystery. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in the perfect spots. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Feeling it piece by piece. Our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in their perfect spots. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces, bringing joy forever. Puzzled hearts will solve the mystery. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in a perfect spot. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces, bringing joy forever. Puzzled hearts will solve the mystery. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in the perfect spots. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Feeling it piece by piece. Our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in their perfect spots. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces, bringing joy forever. Puzzled hearts will solve the mystery. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, our love for puzzles is real. Piece by piece, we compete. Jigsaw puzzle on repeat. Speed is key, gotta move fast. Put those pieces in a perfect spot. Adrenaline rush, hearts pounding loud. Every second counts, we gotta wow the crowd. Fingers flying, hands on fire, hands on fire. We're the kings and queens of this puzzling empire. Puzzled hearts, we're in this together. Filling in the pieces. Puzzled hearts will solve.
All right, hello everyone and good morning. Hope you can all hear me fine. So in about 6 minutes or so, we'll be doing the reveal of the puzzle. And yeah, just like to welcome everybody who's participating today. And while you're getting ready to set up, it looks so cool.
Yes, good morning, everybody. This is really exciting. Michelle, I've seen a bunch of people trying to decipher whatever code word is on the puzzle wrapping that they're on today. I don't think anybody has cracked it. Do you have a hint?
Okay, we're back. Hello. No, I just my husband told me that I still had the background screen on. I thought I switched the screen that everybody on YouTube could see all the lovely yellow puzzles, and hopefully that's coming through now. So yes, good morning, Jim. So you chose an interesting topic today. The theme was, is speed puzzling a sport?
Yes, I think it's a pretty gosh darn important question. Because if there's any debate about should it be included in the Olympics or trying to get onto ESPN or some of those other like televised sports networks, trying to get more funding for puzzles and interest from the public in there, that's kind of a question that needs answered. So that way we can, really define puzzling in a way that can bring more people into it outside of the people who are already in the know and love doing the thing, right? I think that it is most certainly a sport, and I'm more than happy to debate anybody on that particular instance. I know a lot of people have entered and agreed for the most part. But in general, definitions of sports range from it must be a physical activity that has a competition to it has to be a competition. Sometimes it just has to be a thing that is done physically with other people. And I think that each of those definitions have their own little loopholes in them that become a little fuzzy once you start looking at the huge spectrum of sports that we call sports in general. So I think speed puzzling easily falls into that category no matter which angle you end up looking at it from.
And also, you have the role of being a speed puzzling coach. So, yeah, traditionally, coach is a word that comes from the sports arena. And I mean, these days it's a bit more loose. You have life coach. You have that term is being applied to a lot of other areas of life. But traditionally, when we think of a coach, we do think of somebody training another person or a team, and training specific skills. So yeah, that's another aspect of it.
Having infrastructure on learning how to get better at a thing, right? You can think about even chess being included as an Olympic sport. There are chess coaches that work with those grandmasters on a regular basis to get them to be better. If you think about shooting or archery, those are sports where the physicality may be minimized compared to some of the like cross country, skiing, those kinds of things, but it is no less of a sport that is involved inside of those. And I would argue, and I think many people would agree, that the lower back strength that needs to be involved for speed puzzling is pretty wild. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of weightlifters start transitioning into the speed puzzling world, just for the extra like squat practice that they have to do for 30-40 minutes straight.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, I'd like to ask one of our virtual assistants today, Francisca, what she thinks of the topic. Francisca, do you think speed puzzling is a sport?
So now you can hear me.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a mind sport, because it's not like a sport like football or basketball, but it's you need to train for a competition, or you need to train your physical skills to do the puzzle more faster. And I think it's not a sport like a team sport like football, but it could also be a pairs competition or teams. And yeah, I think it's like a sport, but the most people say it's not a sport because it's not like a game. It's like, yeah, it's a hobby, but there are competitions and you need to train for it. And
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said. You said like a mind sport, and a couple of people who live in Germany also use that word Denksport. So mind sport or brain sport. That's not something we talk about so much in English, but it's actually an actual proper word in German. And what's funny is, just as I was looking at Instagram while I was having my breakfast, one of the speed puzzlers who's not participating today shared an event in her town, and it's actually the Denksport like get together. It's card games, puzzling, and board games, and I just thought it was quite coincidental that we chose this topic today, and there's actually like this mind sport event in some place. So yeah, Francisco, congratulations on your results last weekend at the German Championship. For those who don't know, she was the under-18 champion, and yeah, I just wanted to have a really great result. And obviously you would have, I think you would have trained for that, or did you just come in blindly and just do your best on the day? So how did you prepare, or take this as like a sporting activity?
I train like specifically the smaller parts of puzzles. Like I train puzzles I don't like so much, and I train to get faster with turn the edges out, sort the edges. And I did a lot of puzzles, and it was like a few weeks with the sport. Like it was like a sport because I trained so much the weeks before, and then it was like the competition at the end. And yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So there you go. Well, what we're going to be doing today was we're going to be talking about some of the other perspectives. So a lot of people were like, yes, it's definitely a sport. Some were like, well, it depends on how you define and if it's like this or if it's like that. So it was like a but or a it depends. And then we're actually going to have someone on as a guest interview later. Jonathan, he was one of the two people who said no, it's not a sport. So we're going to be exploring all sides of it. So yeah, thanks Francisca and Jim. Let's do the reveal. And hopefully...
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. All right, let's check it out. So everyone, you may unwrap your puzzle. Let's see what we're working with today.
This is exciting. What's it going to be? Ooh, is that CherryPazzi I see in the corner? Oh, man.
Yeah, so there's plastic wrapping on it. So go ahead and remove the plastic wrap. So like Janie just wrote in the comments that her Garmin watch, so her Fitbit, classifies it as exercise because her heart rate goes up and that's measuring. So yeah,
that's true.
Is it, you know, so one aspect is, does it make your heart rate go up? Then it does have a sport element.
I have no doubt a lot of our puzzlers right now, their heart rates just went up after they open that. After they open it up to try to figure out, okay, how am I going to approach this thing? Like already the strategizing is coming into play right away. And what's the name of this CherryPazzi?
This is called Magic Krakow. So it's from Poland. So maybe some Polish puzzlers will be familiar with this one. Okay, puzzle on the table, ready to go. Let's do this. Countdown in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck, everybody. And they're off and away. This is pretty exciting. You know, we mentioned a moment ago, is it a sport? Well, right now, immediately after opening the puzzles, everybody is trying to flip these pieces as quickly as possible. And for some of the top players, you're looking at trying to get the flip and initial sort done under about 3 minutes, which is pretty wild. That ends up being less than half a second per piece that they have to flip. And hopefully a lot of things are face up whenever they first come out. So there's a little bit of luck involved. Yeah. And we can see that image. Michelle's pulling it up right there. This is the Krakow puzzle. This is going to be pretty tricky for a lot of people because you can see that the sky doesn't have a nice, super happy gradient. There is that moon in the middle that sticks out, that white in the sky. I think a lot of folks will end up trying to start there. And there's a little bit of a split in the lower left where that bright light also hits. That ground is going to be pretty tricky. This might be one of those deceptively tougher puzzles. I'm curious to see if puzzlers end up going for the outlines of the buildings, sort of doing that like roof versus skyline, and then boxing things up and down from those lines. The reds that stick out on those horses look like really good targets. And as much as people don't enjoy doing plants and trees, compared to a lot of the other samey pieces that are on here, I think we're going to see several puzzlers knock out that green tree on the left there pretty early on. But I could be totally wrong. CherryPazzi has this really cool thing where the pieces don't have a lot of random squiggles to them. They're all pretty consistent. If I'm remembering the cut right there, Michelle.
Yeah, no, there's a really good cut on this one. And I have to say, when I did the sky, I was expecting this one to go slow. There's a really nice gradient in the sky. So closer to the buildings, it's like yellowish. The top left-hand corner is black. And then,
yeah. Zooming in a little bit more, you can see it, yeah.
Yeah, and then only have the dark blue left and right of the moon. But yeah, I found that when I got to the dark blue pieces, it went quicker than expected just because of the good piece cut. So I'll just say who we've got on the screen. We've got Aaron from the UK, Agata from Poland, Go Agata, do it for Poland. Maybe she's from the city. Maybe she's got an extra boost, a patriotic feel today.
Yeah.
We have Aidan from Switzerland, Anna from Cyprus, Anna R from Sweden, and Annalise from Belgium. And Aidan says, yes, it's a sport. I work up a sweat when I'm speed puzzling. Aaron says probably the most comparable established thing out there is speed cubing, so with a Rubik's Cube. I think that it's more of a mind sport where speed puzzling fits best.
Well, it's the comparison to speed cubing is interesting. I would argue that this might even be more difficult than speed cubing because with speed cubing, there's a handful of algorithms that you can memorize, and then it's a game of getting your fingers to do that algorithm as quickly as possible. Whereas with speed puzzling, every puzzle is a little different. Unless you've seen that exact one before, but you have to come up with a different way to process each individual piece. How are you going to approach it every time? And you run into all sorts of really weird shifts. Like, are the colors going to be different on the pieces than what they are on the box? Great example of this is the cow puzzle from Worlds, where a lot of people picked it because the outside image looked like it was going to have lots of gradients and shades to play with. And then once you got into it, it was just dark splotches everywhere that were really difficult for folks.
Yeah, so we now have Anime on the screen. Start to see some, color sorting going on there. We have Astrid from Denmark, Bente from Norway, Berit from Germany, Bibi from Denmark, and Birgit from Germany. And Bibi says, good question. I go back and forth on this being a very non-sporty person. One of the things I enjoy about speed puzzling is that it's competitive. It's more a competition with myself rather than against others. As a non-competitive person, this is why I enjoy it so much.
No, that's really lovely, and I would say that it's similar to track and field, where a lot of times, even though there's other people on the track at the same time as you, at the end of the day, it's you versus the clock, right? And that's one of the big limiting reagents is it's always figuring out how can you optimize things a little bit. I do see several people trying to do some sorting of like sky versus everything else. Sometimes if there's a lot of the same color, that can pay off. It ends up being a game of how discreetly can you make those piles, because if you discern some of those colors early on, then the extra touches to do that sorting can pay off a little bit. You could see Barrett going for an edge work, trying to get those that lower part of the ground built in, and also I think over there, do we have somebody doing the red food stand there? Yes, in the lower left, getting that corner built rather quickly here. Really, really great stuff right away, and we're only 6 minutes into this. Yeah, there's a lot, whenever it comes to sports, there's always a game of optimization, how do runners get that extra little bit of speed on their takeoff? And there's similar things in the speed puzzling world, right? Like how many touches are you going to make on each piece before they end up sinking in? Are you going to try to split your piles left and right on both sides of the tables? All of those things add up. And sometimes those strats pay off. Sometimes they eat a little bit of time. And sometimes what works best for one person doesn't work for everybody else. There's height differences that you have to account for that people play with. No two people do the high jump or the long jump the exact same way because their bodies are a little different, right?
Yeah, well, we're seeing here that the 6 people I have on the screen now are all going in different ways. I mean, we can see some moons being formed. We see some trees and some borders and some red patches. So yes, interesting to see how people approach this one. So right now we have Carolyn from Germany, Claudia from Germany, Daniela from the Netherlands, Dietmar from Germany, Elena from Latvia and Elisa from Denmark.
Yeah, I think that left-hand side with the tree border is going to be pretty popular. I'm also spying on some of the some other folks as well, and that seems to be where a lot of people are starting out. And we can also see those that white center moon and also the lamplight that's over on the left-hand side. Those are probably only about 8 to 15 pieces total. So if you see those, it's pretty straightforward to grab those pieces, build that chunk, and then lock it in somewhere and use it as an anchor point that you can sunburst out from a little bit. So really good puzzling from everybody here so far. And we're only 8 minutes and about 30 seconds into this. And also, just a quick note: this is the 50th Euro Jigsaw Jam puzzle. So people are this is becoming more and more popular as time goes on.
Yeah, it's really great to see it already at 9, coming up to 9 minutes, that there's some sizable chunks and some sizable strips of border being done already at this stage. I just want to mention that Claudia says, in answer to the question, yes, defo. So definitely, definitely it's a sport. Just look at the exhausted faces after a finish. That's a good point. Just watch the final any puzzle competition, and there's always like the did I really do that? And just like sometimes collapsing on the table. So yes.
Yeah, one of the things I talk to people about is how to handle the adrenaline that starts to hit, after the 25-minute mark and you're doing really well. Is like your hands start to shake. How do you overcome that so that way you don't start misfiring a whole bunch? And you can actually see here, is that Elisa in the bottom middle has the full left hand edge done and is working inwards, has almost the whole tree, some of that light. That she might be about 80 to 100 pieces in already, which is really phenomenal.
Yeah, and before I forget, I just want to mention, Inga wrote a comment in the puzzle. We've been on the radio with the Dutch Championship at Langs de Lijn, which is a sports radio show. So that's pretty cool that a sports radio show interviewed the Sino family, and they seem to consider it a sport.
If they have sport in the name, it's pretty indicative of the of the definition.
Yeah, and Victor just wrote a comment just before we started that, yay, Krakow, I was there yesterday. So yeah, so just
might be a little edge for him.
So just regarding the Polish puzzlers, Christian is not participating in this one. From Poland, we have Victor and also a few others. But next time we have Christian on, we're going to watch him a lot more closely. Yeah, so from Poland, we have Mayday, Monica, Olga, Olivia, and Victor and Agata. So actually 6 puzzles from Poland today. So let's see if Poland comes out on top again. Okay, on screen we have Ellen from the Netherlands, Emilia from Finland, Emma from Sweden, Everly from Estonia, Fruji from Hungary, and Graham from the UK. And Graham says, yes, it is a sport, but only if you stand up. So all you people sitting there, it's a hobby. Those who are standing up, it's a sport.
Got to be really in it.
But what about those people who stand up and then sit down and then stand up and sit down?
I guess it's only 50% sport for those folks. Maybe it's just a spore, which is fun. Looking at the folks on screen here, Amelia K. She started out doing that left-hand side and then anchored in the moon and that lower lamplight, and then finished the rest of the border there. And it looks like she's starting to collect more and more of those sky pieces to try to build in that gradient that shows up much better on the pieces than it does on the image itself. We could also see lower left, is that in can't quite see the name.
Ively.
Yeah, almost has the whole border complete. If you get the whole border, that's 86 pieces. And Fruzy's also doing a great job, has built in that moon and expanded out from there quite a bit. I think she's falling behind Amelia, but she's at a pretty good clip. Has that left-hand side of the border built out. Yeah, and now somebody else has almost that full border in. So probably probably closer to 100 pieces there built in. But I think Amelia K is our current front runner. Ellen's doing a great job, has that top edge, and I think she has also that moon pulled out and is going to anchor it in. It's really interesting to see how some of the top puzzlers take similar tactics overall. They just do them in slightly different orders. In terms of, do they end up doing the whole border and then start making islands? Do they make an island and then finish up the border? And part of it comes down to, what are you seeing in the pile moment to moment in order to keep moving forward? And that's a pretty important skill, is to how to prioritize what you're going to work on based on what you can see inside of the pile, right? If everybody has different tables, different lighting, sometimes that affects what's easy to see for each individual person. Right there, you can see Amelia just made a really big connection with the top of her moon into the border. It looks like that's starting to lock in, and then she's going to be able to box in the rest of that sky chunk once it lines up here.
Yeah, no, that looked really, really nice how she had that island of the moon, and then she just put it over and then attached it to the border. So that's looking really good. And also how Fuji has also, gone for the moon as well. So Amelia K, just going to leave her up a bit longer. And Amelia K said, yes, I think it's a sport and I feel it burns many calories and my heart beats so fast.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think somebody in the chat had mentioned that their Garmin turns into exercise mode whenever they start speed puzzling. So I feel like that counts for a lot. If you're in the chat, please make your guesses as to what the top times are going to be on this one. I'm excited to see what other people are thinking here. Based on where Amelia's at and where some of the other folks are at, I think that we could see something around the 35 minute mark.
All right, so we have Inga from the Netherlands, Inka from Finland, Iris from Denmark, Isabel from France, and Janine from Germany. And Janine says, yes, it's a sport. You need a lot of concentration and a strong back. Also, the finger movement is quite sportive and exhausting.
Oh, yeah. No, just being able to do the repetition movement over and over and over again. I've seen the definition pop up in sport several times of needing a certain amount of endurance, whether that's endurance for training or endurance for doing the event itself. And there's no doubt in my mind, watching a whole lot of puzzlers for a long time, that after a certain amount of time, that fatigue sets in, and being able to push through that fatigue and still keep your physicality up as much as possible is a huge part of it. You can see Janine has actually done a really good job of getting that top border in. And Inga is also in a really good clip here. Hasn't completed the top part of the border, but you can see that she's stretched out the whole bottom and has worked into that horse and carriage situation and has built that upper moon. So even though she might be in a different build from where Amelia is at, they might be pretty close in terms of overall piece count.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, Inga said that she's waiting for it to become an Olympic sport. So that is something that's on the agenda for Diane. So when I listened to the live stream from, I can't remember which one it was, it might have been the individual final from the Worlds, Diane said that they're planning to try and get it into the Brisbane Olympics. It's quite far away. I don't know, 2030 or something like that, or 2000 and yeah. But anyway, it's on the agenda, and in order for it to get to the Olympics in Australia, some years away, they have to go through certain steps to get it recognized. And one thing to get it recognized is that it is actually a sport. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and oddly enough, one of the things you need is to have an international federation of some kind, which the jigsaw puzzling world has figured out. So one step ahead of the game there.
Yeah, so on screen we have Jenny from Finland, Johanna from Finland, Johanna from Germany, Jonathan from the UK, Judith from Germany, and Jukka from Finland.
Yeah, and you can see this crew is doing a pretty solid job here. I also like seeing where people sort their pieces. I think that's a really interesting tactic and how people set things up. You can see that the upper left there, I think it's Jenny, has most of the pieces to the left and sort of built up and around, and then has some little bit of sorting that they've put on the right. Whereas Johanna has this like rainbow set for a lot of the pieces that aren't put together just yet. And Jonathan Nash has all of his pieces above where he's putting the puzzle. So there's a lot of reaching over top and putting it and pulling what he wants in. And he's also using sort of the short side of the table, which I think will give him some more access to pieces overall with those long arms. You can see Yuka has used several different sorting trays, has that full border built, and I think it looks like one of the buildings inside of there. It might be going from the moon down a little bit. Hard to tell from the angle.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't seen anybody do what I did. So I went straight for the red. So so many people went for the red little shop on this on the side, but I also pulled out all the red pieces belonging to the horse decorations, and I did basically the horse and the carriage straight after the little red shop. So I see some people were kind of, after doing the tree and after doing the border, kind of getting around to start to do the horses. But for me, that was like right up at the beginning. So yeah, as you say, it's interesting how people perceive color and what stands out to them. And that was for me. I was like, well, if I'm going to pull the red for the shop, I may as well pull the red for the pom-poms as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting puzzle, and I think it'll be. I think that the ground part might be a little easier than people expect, because you can see the water line on some of those pieces, or at least on the image you can. So if you can discern where the water is versus where the some of the harder tile is, you can crunch down that entire lower third into even smaller segments, so that way you can be very targeted with how you're going to pull pieces out. And that's a whole other skill onto itself, is how do you break down these images so that way you can attack them. Because it's always easier to make a 15-piece puzzle than it is to make a 100-piece puzzle. So if you can mentally crunch that down and then build out from there, you're going to be in a really good spot.
So on screen we have Julia from Austria, Karen from Austria, Kath H from the UK, Katrin from Switzerland, Kirsty from Finland, and Leah from Denmark. So Leah says, I think it should definitely be considered a sport. It has the mental exertion like other activities which are recognized as sports, for instance, bridge and chess, but it also has an element of physical dexterity like darts and billiards. And I really like this comparison, because darts is considered a sport, and it's not physical in the way that you would burn calories, you could say, or that because you're doing large movements. It's very fine movements, but it definitely takes a lot of skill and a lot of training to be able to achieve that. So I thought that was a very interesting comparison.
Oh yeah, I would even put bullet chess up there in the pantheon of needing a lot of dexterity, where you have a time limit of about 1 minute to 5 minutes, and so you have to be able to move the piece, hit the clock without moving any of the other ones that you're not touching, because then it's alt, or you have to move one of those other pieces, right? So the amount of precision there is wild at that pace. and I really like is this Kristen in the lower left here has taken a road less traveled here, has the whole left side built in, and is now finishing up the bottom road. And you can see that she's starting to radiate out from the top, kind of doing the darker part of the sky, and then working in, sort of the inverse of what several other people have done, which is really great because if you see it and it's working for your eyes, go for it, right? And it's always easier to get pieces in whenever you have a little bit of context. So she's doing really, really well here.
Yeah, sorry, that was Catherine from Switzerland.
Right.
Yeah, no, I really like how she's done. She's got the whole stones out of the way. So yeah, the stones, often I kind of have a big sigh when I see there's like a road or like bricks in the foreground. But actually this one went quite fast because you do have some reflections, so you can see the lighter patches and kind of fill those in first. And then you also have like this black strip going diagonally, which can also be filled in. And then there's actually very few pieces that are just pure gray. All the rest have some kind of reflection or like shading on it. So yeah, the ground, don't be intimidated by the ground.
Yeah, it is difficult to overcome what might be normally a weakness and turn it into an advantage. Sort of like how a lot of puzzlers get nervous around dark pieces. Well, sometimes if there's not a lot of black in the puzzle, starting or just aiming for dark pieces at a certain point can be very helpful because that's a very distinctive kind of color or piece that you can then throw in all together at once, right? So figuring out how to take advantage of those differences goes a long, long way. And as soon as you see it on the pieces, it's good to aim for it.
Yeah, so we now have Lena M from Germany, Linda from Netherlands, Lindsay from the UK, Lena from Norway, Louisa from Australia, and Maya from Finland.
And they're all doing very, very well here. Somebody in the chat pointed out that there's a lot of other rules and considerations for the Olympics to consider something a sport, let alone get it to be in one of the events. And that's absolutely true. One of the criteria that they go through is how popular is that particular sport. And while speed puzzling is growing and growing every year, it may not be quite to the level of international renown as like wrestling or karate or snowboarding even. So we'll have to keep pushing on that front to see if we can get there. And there's also filming considerations. For those of you who have been to Worlds or some nationals, you know that the camera folks are running around like crazy trying to take a video. And even us here, there's all sorts of infrastructure trying to get as many people on screen as possible. And it's quite a lift. I hope one day we can do a behind the scenes of how crazed Michelle is trying to like find everybody and what the assistants are doing, because it's pretty wild.
So I've just jumped ahead. I started in the alphabet at A and we're up to M now, but I'm just jumping ahead to check out Teresa Kotkova and Victor. And yeah, they're both doing amazing and probably a similar amount of pieces left. So both of them are over halfway at 26 minutes. So I'm just going to leave them on the screen a bit longer. I'm going to keep on going. We also have Maria from Germany, Maria TB from Sweden, Marie from Norway, and Marlene from the Netherlands.
Yeah, you can see Teresa has done that entire sky region, and that whole left-hand side, and is really only has that building in the lower in the lower part of the in the lower part of that ground, those tiles to work in. But I think she's got it pretty boxed in there. if we take a look at where Victor's at, you can see that he's done a lot of the building, but still needs to go back up and get some of that sky worked in. So it's going to be pretty close here coming into the final stages, and we're coming up on about 27 minutes and 30 seconds here. So they may both be able to get it under 35 minutes without too much trouble. We're just going to see if they can keep their physicality up.
Yeah, so we also have Mayday from Poland, Melinda from the UK, Marilyn from Estonia, and Monica from Poland. So I have to say, this puzzle really surprised me. I really thought this was going to take me a long time. I did this puzzle last night and I was expecting, well, not such a long time. I really wanted to aim for an hour, and I was expecting, because of the sky and because it's a photo, that it would take me about 1 hour 5 and 1 hour 10 minutes. And I really surprised myself. I did it in 49 minutes. So I think we're going to see some really great times here. And I think the reason why it was a lot faster than I expected, despite it being a photo, was because of the good piece cut and the gradient in the sky. Like, there's very few pieces that are actually the same color, because you have the different shades. And even the buildings, even though there's a large chunk of buildings with the similar pieces, they have very defining pieces on them. There's archways, the windows are different shapes, and there's a staircase, there's railings. So there's a lot of details on this. If you like busy puzzles, you can actually just very quickly see in the picture where they go. So yeah, great to see. I mean, Victor is just storming ahead here, but I've also been told that Inga is getting along. I'm just going to keep her up.
Yeah,
well.
Inga's doing a great job as well. And one of the tools in a puzzler's belt is to be able to switch strategies rapidly. There's going to be some parts of the puzzle where you can do a full table solve, where you can go, let me just look at the pile and what sticks out that's going to be relatively small that I can put together. You just grab those, build them. You don't even look at the image all that much. And then sometimes you want to pull an image first sort of style out of your pocket, where you look at the box first and then start doing the puzzle solving. So that way you know what you're looking for and you can be a little more targeted. So being able to use multiple strategies at once goes a long way. But as we come up to the 30-minute mark here, we can see that Teresa and Victor are pretty close. Victor might be screaming ahead here. Teresa has slowed down a little inside of those buildings, and Victor, I think, judging by the angle, only has that sky left. You can see that he's using this two-handed rapid movement. He picks up a piece, he twirls it around a couple of times, and then tries to land it exactly wherever it's supposed to go. You can see it kind of picks up, drops a couple of times. We know that as he starts to come into the close, that adrenaline starts to hit a little bit. And so you get a couple of misfires, but he is so fast on the front end and gets a lot of things in early. Whereas Teresa is so good with gradients, she got an acceleration there, but now she's down to the busy part of the building. But Victor is picking up the darkest pieces that he can. You can see that the whole pile kind of shifts whenever he dives into it, and is now drops a piece, picks it back up, twirls it in his hand, and tries to sink it. He may be down to about 50 pieces overall, and it's all just that sky. So he's going to be able to use that gradient in order to sink the rest of this.
Okay, so I've put what I can see are the 6 leaders on the screen: Teresa, Victor, Inga, Annemie, Verena, and Tobias. So they're all working on different sections. Yeah, so it looks like either the buildings or the sky area, but it looks like
Yeah, it looks like Victor may have.
Yeah, Victor definitely has it. I haven't got anyone ahead of him, but it looks like Verena could be head-to-head with Teresa for a second. Yeah,
And this is really exciting. Teresa's one of the top puzzlers in the world, and a single puzzle never defines where you're at in the rankings overall or anything. But just knowing that you're doing a really good job is fantastic. Teresa has a couple of people watching, sneaking into to encourage her as she goes. Victor coming in on the last 30 or 40 pieces here. We know that those gradients and those flat colors give him a little bit of trouble from time to time. I'm not sure if Teresa's going to be able to catch up to be able to catch up to him, but we can see that Amelia has some of those sky left. Annemie doing a great job as well. Verena has only that building that lower left part of the building remaining, so she might be able to rapidly get those in. Just change a couple of tactics if you're doing image first or table search in order to get those in. Victor coming down. It looks like he's trying to sunburst inward, sort of doing a collapse of the puzzle to get the rest of that sky in. As we come into the close here. He's dropped down from using both hands to just using one at a time. Sometimes you'll see puzzlers do a shape sort whenever they come into really flat sections like this, but Victor might be able to. He's sort of drifting into it as he goes. He'll pick a piece and then try to put it back and twist it a little bit so that way it aligns up, so that way he can have an easier time here. Teresa catching up here pretty well. I don't know if it's going to be able to, if she's going to be able to catch him completely, but is doing a really, really good job. Verena and Teresa look to be in the fight for second right now. I do like Teresa's board a little bit better because there seems to be mostly small singular gaps of pieces rather than one large one. It's always easier to get pieces in whenever you have more context that you can use some of the shape of the piece in order to get those in, rather than having to build an entire chunk. So if you have a line straight across, you're going to be able to get those in pretty quickly. Anna May doing a fantastic job as well. You can see that she has a few lines across. Victor coming into the last 3-4 pieces here. 1, 2, 3, and he gets it. Congratulations, Victor.
Well done, Victor.
A first place win for Poland on a Poland-based puzzle. You have to wonder if that helped him a little bit figure out where everything was going to sit. But congratulations, and just over the 34-minute mark, I think. So I was pretty close on the estimate.
It looks so Verena and Teresa really close.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull Verena up on my mini screen here. Yeah, you can see that they're both very close indeed. Verena might be able to catch up here. Teresa has a few pieces in her hands as she's trying to deal them off the top like a Pez dispenser almost. Whereas Verena picked up a couple of pieces. She's dropping them in. She's accelerating here, coming into the final handful of pieces. I think she's only down to about 6 or 7. Teresa has about 8. We're going to see if Verena closes out ahead of Teresa. She drops them in, rotates it in. Verena only using one hand to put pieces in. Teresa coming in, trying to drop them. We can see that there's an extra mouse in there. Verena going left-handed, right-hand, trying to finish up those buildings. And Verena gets just ahead of Teresa. Congratulations, Verena. Teresa now needs to close out rather rapidly before somebody else tries to sneak in. She has maybe about 6 pieces remaining. 1, 2, 3, and she hits it. Oh, almost. Little bit of adjustment to try to get those last ones in. There's always that surge of adrenaline after the 34-minute mark, and you're coming into the close. Congratulations, Teresa. That was wonderful. And the whole family's there. I was seeing people running around in the background, and I wasn't sure whether to...
Well, Teresa is at Maria's in Slovakia, so yeah. Hello.
Okay.
She's got a support crew there.
Congratulations, Teresa. That was very, very well done. And congrats to the support team. We were talking about is puzzling a sport. You need a support team to do any kind of sport. It's always a group effort. So congratulations, very, very well done on that. We could see Amelia K is coming into the final close along with Inga. I think Inga might have the edge here coming in for a 4th place slot. She's into that sky, has maybe about 20 pieces left. And Amelia K has almost the same chunk of sky, but some more of the building. And Inga is accelerating here. You can see she can kind of smell the finish and is really putting the burst in here to try to finish those up. Her hands are suddenly moving much faster than they were a little bit ago. really getting the push going. Amelia K physically might be going a little slower, but is very precise. Inga working down and around, trying to get a foothold here. You can see she's rotating those pieces. There's less of a specialized cut on this CherryPazzi, so sometimes it can be a little tricky on this flat area. But Inga seems to be doing very, very well in wrapping this up, and she may have locked up 4th place here. Has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces remaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Amelia K has about 12. So Inga's going to be able to catch this unless she gets really, really stuck here. But I think she's going to have this locked up. Going in for 4th place. 1, 2, doing the countdown. You can almost see the hand shaking a little bit coming into that final finish. That shot of adrenaline closing out. Amelia K starting to catch up a little bit. She's very precise. Doesn't seem to be affected here. We're coming down to the last 4 pieces for Amelia and the last 4 for Inga. Who's going to be able to get it? We're coming in, and Amelia sketches it just barely ahead of Inga. Those last couple of seconds of uncertainty working out in Amelia's favor. And Inga's still trying to get those couple of pieces in. That flat part of the puzzle, just getting the best of her right at the end here. But getting this puzzle done in under 39 minutes is absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations, Inga. This is really, really well done. And congratulations to Amelia for locking up 4th place. That was a fantastic finish. Sometimes just having that bit of control going into a fast close goes a long, long, long way.
Yeah, and we just saw in the last screen there, we had 5 people all doing the top right-hand corner as their final spot, except for Enemy. She was working on the buildings, and at the moment we also have Enemy working on the buildings, and all the others have like so the top right corner is like the final frontier.
Yeah, it's going pretty exciting here. Coming into this last bit, Astrid coming in on the close along with Olivia as well, and Anime is closing out. I think she may have finished the ground there. Yep, yeah, Anime has locked it up. Sorry for not calling that out a little bit sooner, but congratulations, Anime, getting those buildings done. Sarka doing a great job. Tobias, I need to really get my Tobias's #1 fan shirt at some point. But he's in that sky region. You can see he's so controlled as he moves and gets each one of those pieces in. If he picks it up, it goes right in. Astrid and Tobias about even. Olivia has some more of the building to knock out. And who's in the top right now? I think they only have Sky remaining.
That's Veronica.
Veronica doing a fantastic job here. That little bit of sunlight coming in may be causing some glare on those darker pieces, but she's going to try to get those in. You can see that she slowed down a little bit with the physicality, but is being very, very careful and very precise with getting those pieces in. She picks it up. Whatever she's picking up is going in. She's just being very cautious with it. I think it is going to come down to Astrid, and Veronica finishes right away. Congratulations.
Yeah,
stuck
so
that one in.
We've had 7 finishes. Victor, Verena, Teresa, Amelia K, Inga, Anime, and Veronica, and just had Astrid as well. So 8 finishes. Well done.
Congratulations, Astrid. A fantastic finish. Oh yeah, and this is where we're going to start getting the wave of finishers to start rolling in little by little. Really, really exciting coming to round out our top 10. It's going to come down to who wants it the most to stay to get that top 10 finish. We can see Tobias and Olivia are in the hunt. I think Tobias may have a little bit of an edge here. Olivia has a handful of too many pieces remaining, I think, in order to catch him. But that'll lock up the 9th and 10th spots, I believe. Is that right, Michelle?
Yeah, we've got 2 spaces left in the top 10. And
Okay.
Tobias takes one.
There it is. He's taken the 9th place. So now who wants 10th? They can see Iris and Olivia there And that's going to be pretty close. Iris with that black table, those pieces might be blending in a little bit, trying to get the rest of them in. Olivia struggling a little bit to get that flat part of the section sky in. We can also see who's in the bottom right there doing a really good job.
I've just put Patrick on the bottom right.
Okay. Patrick doing a great job. Yeah, at this stage, whenever we're over the 40-minute mark, that fatigue sets in, and it's hard to make sure that you're giving yourself that extra little bit of push. And Fruzy runs in underneath. Fruzia, congratulations. Slides in under the radar and hits the done. Very, very well done.
Oh, I didn't have her on screen. Oh, well done, Fruzy. And Inka
right behind. Well done. Yeah,
that is an amazing time for Fruzy. That might be her best first attempt ever.
Let's go! Congratulations. I'm always excited for people to do their best and hit new heights, and that's just wonderful. Olivia coming in, has only 2 pieces left, just needs to sink them, and Olivia gets done. Congratulations.
Yeah, so
very well done.
I think we started 2 minutes late. So according to the timestamps, it was Victor was done at 34 minutes. And we just crossed, like we're just going up to 44 minutes now. So after Fruzy was Inka, then Olivia and Iris. So also, yeah, the best result for Fruzy so far. Not only for time. Yeah, well done, Carolyn. Everybody's finishing. Okay.
It's very well done. And for everybody that's finishing this, under 44 minutes is wild. It's absolutely wild to see people finishing this quickly on a puzzle like this. You have to think how fast not just the sport itself is growing, and I'm going to keep saying that until people believe me. But how much it's grown, but also how much improvement there is on an individual level, and how the entire field is shifting to be faster and faster and faster over time. It's really, really phenomenal. And congratulations to Ellen and Sarka as the finishers keep rolling in. Yeah, I think that upper right hand sky is where is sort of the other big black hole of a time sink, and finishing up the building in the lower quadrant as well.
Oh, and Tamar finished actually 9th, just before Tobias. So we didn't have Tamar on screen. So it was
wow, congrats.
9th place was Tamar, and 10th was Tobias. So Fruzy was 11th, Inka 12th, Olivia 13th, Iris 14th, Carolyn 15th, Ellen 16th, and Sarka 17th. So if I haven't mixed my numbers up there, but yeah, doing great. And that's 17 people at 45 minutes. Like, wow. 45 minutes.
That is wild.
And I think this really surprised me. I think this puzzle is a lot easier than it turns out to be easier than it looks. I was really surprised how well I did on this one. And when I had looked at myspeedpuzzling.com like months ago, when I ordered the puzzle, like 3 people had done the puzzle. I think people looked at it and were really intimidated, but it's actually a really fun puzzle.
Yeah, it on the surface it looks very similar to I can't remember the exact name of it, but I think it was an Italy. It was a Leaning Tower of Pisa puzzle where the tower was in the middle, and it was a similar night scene with a ground. And it was one of those puzzles where people went into it thinking, "Oh, this will be a little easier," and then it was much harder than expected because the art style was a little overlappy on a whole bunch of the pieces. There wasn't as much gradient in the sky, but it seems like this particular one has a pretty good gradient to work with in the upper part, except for maybe that right hand corner. And then the buildings are pretty distinct, and everything kind of breaks down into these chunks of about 15 to 30 pieces. So I'm really excited to see how quickly people are getting through this one.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if Victor has done this one before. Victor, you can join us when. There you go. Hello, Victor. Congratulations, first
Hello.
place.
Thank you.
You've yeah, becoming second for a while, but yeah, did you get a boost when you saw that it was a Polish puzzle?
I mean the Polish image, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I live in Krakow, although it didn't really help that much because it's not that often that I go to the main square at night. So I don't know the colors, but I was in the exact same perspective yesterday because we had the Krakow meetup for puzzling, and it was like next door.
Yeah, it's
That's
funny.
that's so cool.
I just searched before. I was just like 10 fun facts about Krakow, and the first picture that came up was almost exactly the same as this, except it was during the day. It was like the old square with like a horse and carriage going past. So, is that a typical thing that the horse and carriages go through the town?
It is very typical, although it's getting how do you call it, looked down on more and more because of animal exploitation. But yeah, there are many carriages. I would say all the time when you are in the on the main square, there are at least 8 carriages waiting for tourists to travel around the old town.
Well, it looks like a very lovely city. Yeah, so I'm sure Jim has some very sporty related questions for you.
Yeah, well, I guess the first most basic one is, where do you stand on the debate about speed puzzling being a sport or not?
As I said in my response to the question, I think everything that can get competitive is a sport by default. So if you are a gardener and you're taking part in competitions for the best garden design, for me, this is a sport. Even if you're taking part as an artist, gardeners are artists, but you know what I mean, like drawing, painting, like digital art, then it's also a sport for me. So
Okay.
definitely.
So sport and competition are more synonyms for each other than
For
being
me.
separate. Okay. That's pretty cool. What have you ever competed in like rock paper scissors tournaments or watched them?
No.
Because if you haven't watched one, I highly encourage everyone to do so. It's a fantastic time.
I think I would stress too much. I stress enough without need to perform physically.
In your mind, what might be the most closest sport to speed puzzling that in like common vernacular? What might be the closest sport, and then what might be the perfect opposite of speed puzzling?
I think in concept, the most similar other competition would be. This will be a very specific example, so don't judge me.
Yeah.
But, I would say the competitions for calculus solving. So you always
those
have
math,
a different
math
calculus,
athletes. Yeah.
but you can learn calculuses with doing so many different examples. So I would say this is basically the same in concept, right?
Yeah. No, it makes total sense.
And what was the other half of the question?
Yeah, what's sort of the polar opposite of what's sort of the polar opposite of speed puzzling in the sports world?
Maybe deadlifting, because you always do the same movement. There is no surprise in every competition that you go to. You have to become a champion in this one skill, and it's totally different in concept.
No, it makes sense. Do you have any specific physical training that you do for the sport of speed puzzling?
I think I should start doing with this puzzle. I was doing so well for the like 90% of the image. So I stood up. I stood up and I started speed puzzling because I always sit down. And when I stood up and I felt my back, I was like, maybe
Oh,
it's
you
time to do
started
something
getting to
about
you a
it.
little bit.
Yeah.
Are you
Fortunately, I could sit down for like 5 seconds in intervals to like rest a bit, but each time getting up again was fun.
whenever you're puzzling, do you you say you kind of feel it a little more each time you get up? Do you try to plan out when you're going to stand or when you're going to sit as you're puzzling? Like, do you strategize that aspect of things?
No, I don't. I just it depends on what mood I am in and how it's currently going. Because sometimes I feel like standing up causes me to go faster if the section is easier, but go slower if the section is difficult. So it's not something that I plan. It's just like when I see pieces or a section that is very difficult and I know it's not going to be easy to do, like the end of the sky for this puzzle. I don't want to stand up because I know that like the negative feedback from my back will just feed into my brain and cause me to like shut down completely, and I won't be able to put those pieces in. And that's what happened today, actually.
Oh, your back started talking to you a little bit.
Yeah, I was standing for the sky because I was like, yeah, I have so little pieces. I have to stand up, and at some point I was like, I think it's hurting me more than helping me.
Well, no, that's it's interesting. How early did you end up catching that and making an adjustment for it?
Yeah, I was too stubborn and I didn't stop. I knew I could have sit down, but I was like, what if I don't find the chair and I just fall? I cannot take this risk at this point. I had the commentary on, so I was listening to it, and I knew Teresa and Verena were really close. So, and I knew that for me, the sky is the slowest. And so I was like, I have to be very, very fast if I want to win. Because Teresa already did the sky, right? I don't know about Verena. But yeah, I was very stressed about the sky when Michelle said that the sky has a gradient that is very obvious. I was like, I don't see that. But then when I started doing the sky, it really did. The orange, the black and gray, the light blue, and the rest. And then the rest was awful. But it was like 30 pieces, I would say, maybe less. But one thing, when I was doing this last section, you mentioned like, oh, some puzzlers would do shape sorting. And I was like, this is CherryPazzi, I cannot do shape sorting.
Well, I was realizing that after I said it, I was like, with this particular brand, it may not help all that much because everything is just going to be just going to be two prongs. But even with that, sometimes just getting the orientation of the pieces lined up helps get rid of some ambiguity inside of there, which is really neat. Were you like, what's that?
I was thinking about doing that, but in this section, the shapes were like, you couldn't say if they go like this or like this. Maybe for like 4 or 5 pieces you could tell, but for the rest of them, it was like any rotation you think of.
No, it makes sense. I'm kind of curious. Somebody, Lori in the chat, is making the argument that speed puzzling might not be a sport, because if anything you can compete in as a sport, then playing marbles is and marbles is never going to be an Olympic sport. Would you think is like playing marbles as the same kind of sport as speed puzzling is?
I don't know what marbles are.
Where you hold a marble and you try to hit them out of a small ring. It's
the glass balls.
Yeah.
Small glass balls that you can
Oh,
hit other balls.
For me, it could be a sport. I don't understand why not. Especially if it's physical, right? Maybe I don't consider like I don't. Yeah, I think I have to go back because maybe I'm not 100% sold on the idea of arts being a sport.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you have a factor of physicality to it. So maybe you could have arts competition, but like with a time constraint, right? If it's like sprint painting, I don't know.
That would be interesting to see. I was noticing coming into I was noticing coming into the end, like I know that sky section was a little difficult. How do you handle the adrenaline of like knowing that you're so close to the end and that you're going so fast? Like what sort of goes through your head in that?
That I am going to screw up.
Oh no.
This is what was happening today. Because I had two thoughts in my head. First was that I know that the section with the buildings and everything else is really easy for me. I knew that for others it can be more difficult because like the architecture photograph is like 100% what I like to do. And I knew that I would slow down on the sky. So I was like, since some of the folks already have the sky, I was like, yeah, I think it's not going to be great. And I will just stress too much and I won't be able to see the pieces and I will just try to slam them down and it's not going to work. But the second thought was that I had very big lead after doing the like everything aside from the sky, and I had only those little this little rectangle, and I was like, yeah. So it was like two thoughts battling each other, and I was like, okay, don't think about it, just do it.
That's all. It's always hard to kind of quiet those voices that are battling at the same time and just focus in on the task at hand. Do you have any advice to puzzlers that are working on getting better or might be in that like, oh man, I'm like this really isn't working? Like, what voices should they try to encourage in their minds whenever they're hitting that point?
I would recommend doing easier puzzles. Sometimes people can get discouraged by making poor puzzle choices. I had this some time ago that I had so many puzzles that were kind of on the difficult side, and my times were longer. And I was kind of feeling down about it. And I also had the reality check during the last two competitions with Christian. So I was like, yeah. And what worked for me was to just take a puzzle that you know you're going to do amazing at. Maybe try to repeat a puzzle that you did before and you knew back then that you didn't do so well and you could have done better. If you keep track of those, like what was the impression of the puzzle, then it's great to do something like this. Also, it's very nice to take a break. Taking a break is very healthy, and it requires self-restraint, which I don't have. Because I think my speed puzzling break took 4 days, and I was going for a month. So it didn't really work. But I'm going back to the break. We will see how it works. And the last thing would be to remember that if there is no progress, then what you need to do is to just branch out, which is if your current maybe not tactics, but like the things you do with speed puzzling don't work anymore, then you need to spend some quality time with experimenting and doing the things, even if you know that like the other I don't know, like decisions you make.
Some of the other processes. Or
the
strats,
processes. Yeah. So if that will be worse for you, just do it. It's like it's better to learn an affirmation for yourself by doing the things intentionally wrong, to see that the things you do are positive.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I really think that's a great idea, is that you always want to try different things, because even if it's something really out of your wheelhouse, giving it that attempt can tell you more about yourself, your puzzling, and what other people are doing that you might be able to adapt to, which is really great. Mm-hmm. Victor, thank you so much, and congratulations on a fantastic win. That was just a blast to watch. Very, very well done. And congrats on a great time. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks, Victor, and congrats on your win today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right, everybody is doing amazing. I mean, we've just crossed 1 hour and 4 minutes, and we've...
Ooh-wee.
Oof. Let me double check.
Krafthofer beat their personal record as well. Yeah, this is it's really fascinating. When I first saw this image, my initial thought was this might be a little tough. But on the pieces, the gradients sit really well. There's enough chunked down parts of this puzzle that you can really get through. So for some people, this is going to put up some really great times.
Yeah, I mean, I personally was a bit intimidated when I saw this image, and I was even thinking, oh, this is possibly too hard. Like, people are going to hate this image. What I found is that with the buildings, like I've done a lot of puzzles with buildings, and you often have a lot of repeating elements, just rows and rows of windows and rows of like doors, and just like, where does it go? But here, everything was just so unique because of the lighting and because of the detail on the building. So yeah, it went really fast. I'm really glad to see people are really pleased with their times, and we've just had about 57 people finished at 1 hour and 5 minutes. So yeah, everyone's doing really great. I'd like to ask Verena to join us, who came in second today, so her best result. Hi, Verena.
Hi.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us what you thought about the puzzle today.
Well, when I opened the box, I was like, ugh, I don't like it because I'm really, really bad with buildings. But yeah, it was easier than expected. And I think it was the first time for me doing a sub 40 on a first try. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, unexpected. And yeah, I mean, I guess the CherryPazzi piece cut helps a lot. Like, it makes it easy to find different sections. And yeah, as you mentioned before as well, the lighting on the building helps as well, finding which goes where. So yeah, really easier than expected.
No, that's really great. And you didn't just get like a little sub 40. You smashed that sub 40 for yourself. That's gotta, how does it feel to get a PR or a personal best and come in such a high placement? Like just tell me how you're feeling about that, because that's phenomenal.
Well, it's kind of unbelievable, and a little bit like I was getting really nervous towards the end, because I always listen to the live stream, because I'm a person who wants to know like where I'm at. And I mean, I knew that, Victor is going to take the win. And but then it was like Teresa and me being like head to head, and I'm like, okay, I cannot look at the screen right now, so I don't know if she's like ahead of me. And so I was just trying to go really, really fast, but then you get nervous, your fingers like tremble. But yeah, I managed. So yeah, exciting.
Mhm. Okay, congratulations. It was very, very well done. How did you approach this puzzle? You were saying that you were a little nervous about the buildings. What was your thought process on going after this?
Well, I always try doing a puzzle from the top to bottom, so I don't have to like lean over too much. So I was like pulling the edges and then starting with the sky edges and doing the sky. And then I was just thinking, okay, what could be easiest? Like there is not a lot of green and not a lot of red, so I was taking all these colors, and then I did the pavement. And yeah, so I left the buildings to the end because yeah, it always gives me a little bit more confidence when I know there's only like around 50, 100 pieces left, even though it's the ones that I don't like to do the most. But yeah, that kind of helps with my strategy.
No, it makes a ton of sense on that. All right, so now gonna shift gears a little bit and get into the main question: is speed puzzling a sport? Yay or nay? And it's going to be immortalized on the internet, so you can never change your mind ever again.
I mean, I think it could be, but it's I don't know. I guess you need a strong lobby in order to actually bring it into like Olympics or like the official recognition of it being a sport. I mean, I guess you mentioned on the live stream that like darts is also like considered a sport, and I mean this came out from like the game that you played in a pub with a lot of like noise and drinking. So why not? It's like it really, really depends. I guess it can be a sport in a way similar to chess because you need like more like your brain, like tactics and strategies, but you also need like really speedy fingers. So it has elements of a sport, I would say.
Could kind of go either way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody, some folks in the chat were pointing out that there is a little bit of there is some overlap, and probably needs to be untangled a little bit about the difference between a sport and a Olympic sport. Because the Olympics has a whole bunch of other sets of criteria, right? Like there's number of people worldwide that watch it, how many people in the host country are fans or participate in it, that kind of thing. So on that level, do you think speed puzzling could be an Olympic sport, assuming that it's treated as a sport to begin with?
Maybe not at the moment, but there is potential in the future.
Do you feel like for you, with like the adrenaline coming into the last bit, do you think that is the most sports-like part of the puzzle, or do you feel it kind of oscillates throughout the entire experience?
Yeah, I mean, I've been training a lot lately, so the training aspect I think is also what could maybe make it a sport, because you can, I mean, of course talent can help, but you need definitely like a lot of training as well to get better and to work on certain aspects of a sport or whatever. So yeah, I mean the adrenaline for sure as well. Yeah, but it's a really tricky question, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned that you've been training quite a bit. What does that process look like? Are you lifting weights? Are you just like carrying buckets and buckets of RAV pieces across the floor?
No, just like training like different puzzles, different like especially puzzles that I usually don't like that much. That as I said, I'm very bad with the buildings, and also like plants are not my strong suit. So I'm trying to get puzzles who have these elements, and then only take those like buildings out, and only practice buildings for like 2 or 3 times over and over again. So yeah, I'm mostly just been doing puzzling, but I've also been thinking that maybe I should start yoga or something, because I can feel it in my back. And it's starting to hurt.
Starting to wear down a little bit over time.
Yeah,
What have
definitely.
you what have you learned the most from some of your reruns or some of your practice doing buildings? If the buildings are the thing that you're kind of working on, what's kind of clicked that's helped you the most recently?
I've been trying to figure out like if there's like windows involved, that I check out like, okay, they go in one straight line. So I just try to find all the windows and like put them in a line and see if there's like special features, like maybe some bricks or maybe like a really flat wall that has no features inside, so that I like focus on the small details. Yeah.
No, that's a absolutely great tip inside of there. Like being able to get a stretch of a key feature and being able to drop it in all at once just helps across the board. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Are you the kind of puzzler that stands up and sits down a lot? Do you do a lot of standing?
Well, I was always sitting down, but then I saw so many people standing, so I thought I will give it a try. And now I'm always like standing at my kitchen island, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know if you can call it standing, because I'm like leaned over, almost like a hunchback. So standing, yeah. But so I don't know if it really makes me faster. I have to try and maybe like sit down for the next competition and compare.
Do a time trial comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, there's always this element with puzzling of trying to figure out what's going to be the best optimization that you can do from like a system standpoint versus what you can do in like a moment to moment tactical standpoint. Are there things that you're trying to do at like a high level to be a speedier speed puzzler?
Not really, because I can definitely see that I'm always like getting better at the puzzles that I already know. But when it comes to the World Championships, you have to be really good at an unpublished puzzle. So it's really like I can see that I'm also getting faster overall. But if the image is just not my favorite, then I can practice as much as I want. It's not really gonna help me. At least that's how I feel at the moment. Like this is some really special feature that all these really good puzzlers have, that they're just really good at a first try, at a complicated first try. So I don't know if I can ever get to that level.
Well, I believe in you. Like you clearly have the speed to get down there, right? And if it's a thing of you just need to like the puzzle to do it, there's always a little bit of you can always lie to yourself a little bit and just say, oh my gosh, isn't this puzzle beautiful? Oh, this is the best, right? And do that little bit of convincing. Because you only need to do it for 35, 40 minutes, and then after that you can go back to hating it.
That's a good tip.
Which is really fun. I asked this to Victor. I'm kind of curious. What do you think might be the most similar sport to speed puzzling that's kind of generally picked or generally considered a sport? What might be the most similar?
I don't know. I never really thought about it.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made for the javelin.
Okay.
Especially if you're like throwing pieces from one side to the other and that kind of thing. But the pinpoint accuracy, if you just want to like launch the pieces over, but maybe not.
Maybe not. No, like I really don't know. I never really thought about it.
No, that's totally cool. Do you think that at some point, so somebody put into the chat that the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships is our Olympics? Would you rather go to the Olympics, or would you rather go to the World Jigsaw Puzzle Championships?
I don't know if that's comparable. Both is amazing. I mean, but at the World Puzzle Championships, I prefer to compete myself. So, yeah, I guess the Puzzle Championships.
Let's say I could snap my fingers and endow you with whatever like special athletic ability was needed to compete. What Olympic sport would you want to compete in?
Swimming, maybe.
Swimming.
Yeah.
That would be that would be a fun. You would give Michael Phelps a run for his money.
Well,
or Leducky is that yeah Ledocky's the other one, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
No, that's really cool. What kind of puzzles are your specialty right now? We know that you're working on buildings. What are the things that you lean more towards?
I really like landscapes. Like they're really my favorites. And I guess because I've been doing them like a lot when I was a teenager, and because we have in Austria as well, like Ravensburger, of course, is the dominating brand, and they have a lot of landscapes in Europe. And that was just like my go-to puzzle. Yeah, I really prefer those.
Do you have a piece counts preference?
In the past, before I discovered speed puzzling, it was always 1,000 pieces because it would just take longer, so I would enjoy more. But now, of course, like I'm practicing a lot of 500 pieces, and I also started doing these like 200 and 300 because it's nice when I know I only have limited time, so I can just like do one really fast. Yeah. So all those.
No, it's fun. I've been hearing that a lot of the top European puzzlers, they kind of cut their teeth on those larger piece sizes, and then going to a 500 or a 3 is sort of like taking the weights off of a bat and then just being able to swing it really fast. Do you feel like the 500s are generally easier than thousands, or are they just smaller in size?
I think they're just smaller. Like not necessarily easier. Yeah. But yeah, but the really, really big puzzles, there are some really, really beautiful ones. And I've also been thinking like at some point I want to do it, but I just don't have the space. So like I saw Christian and his post on Instagram, like doing these like 5,000 pieces, and they are so amazing. But yeah, I'm like, I do not have the space, unfortunately, for these big puzzles.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to have the space for it. I guess I'm kind of curious. Do you have any special puzzle goals coming up?
I'm going to the UK Nationals together with my sister, because she couldn't join the German Nationals, so we decided to go together to the UK Championships, and yeah, maybe we're going also to the European Championships in Budapest, but we don't know yet for sure.
It's interesting. I mean, you already had 2 trophies from the German Nationals recently, so I could totally see you just going on tour to collect the trophies from everywhere and kind of do a puzzle version of Thanos and just collect all the big ones.
Like in Germany, the country ruling like this international category was just really in my favor because there were not that many international puzzlers, so I had a chance. But yeah, let's see how like in the European Championships, like I don't expect like that I have any chances because they're all the good people. If they're all coming, then they will like divide the trophies amongst them.
Well, I got good news for you. You're one of the good puzzlers. There's very few people that can put up a sub 35-minute time, right? Or even a sub 36 puzzle time. So that's really, really phenomenal. Like being able to keep up that pace is really impressive. I know you were saying as you were working on it, it just kind of kept going and taking care of itself.
Yeah.
When you were at the German Nationals, were you kind of were the puzzles there in a similar space of okay, I just got to keep going and the puzzle's going to take care of itself, or did you feel like you were really like working to make those puzzles come through?
Yeah, like in the preliminary round, it was kind of like that it solved itself because it was this circle of color with the insects, and you have these really distinct colors like blue, green, yellow, and red. So it was just, you know, you do one section and then just leaves the others, and you just go section by section. That was easier. But in the final, we had these succulents with the heart-shaped succulent in the center,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of greens, and you had to look really closely at the different textures of the plants, and it was like not so easy. So in this, I felt like I had to work a little bit harder. So yeah.
Yeah, that succulent one was really tricky. It looked like.
Yeah.
Because there was so many like textures and things. I could actually see a lot of similarities with that one with some of the buildings in that there's a lot of line work inside of that that can be tricky. But
Yeah, I did okay.
now that you've hit this new personal best, what's the next like time barrier that you want to crush?
Oof, hard to say. I mean, under 35 on a first try, but that's gonna be really hard. Like really, everything has to align perfectly. Like the image has to be in my favor. Yeah, I need to have my coffee if it's a morning competition. So.
Is there a particular coffee that you gravitate towards?
Yeah, just black and strong.
Okay, all right. Michelle, I don't know if we need to start considering coffee as a performance enhancing drug, because the extra caffeine in there might, it dilates the eyes. That might give you
Might give everyone a good boost.
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sticking around, Verena, even though you didn't say yes for the interview, but you got into the top 3. And I said I said when we were chatting on the train that we got to interview you sometime. So
Yeah.
no, that was a fantastic result today. And yeah, just pipped Puzzle Queen Teresa, so you can be really proud of yourself. And yeah, top 3 in the Euro Jigsaw Jam.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
See you next
Thanks so
time.
much. Yeah, and have a great Sunday. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's doing great. It's amazing. We're at 1 hour and 25 minutes, and we have 5 puzzlers still going, and definitely some finishes coming up in the next few minutes, but also very realistic that everyone will finish within the 2-hour time limit. So yeah, just keep on doing your best. Richard's just had another boost of coffee, and now he's back to it again. All right.
Yeah, we might be able to have everybody finish. I think it's possible. We can do it. We can do it, team.
And there goes Isabel. Congratulations.
Let's go.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Great. All right. So let's bring in our interview for today. Jonathan tells us that speed puzzling is not a sport. So
yes.
You can turn your camera on and yeah, let us know why. Or hello, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of guessed I might be in the minority when you emailed asking if I be interviewed. But yeah, I mean, I've heard, like I said, I sort of compare it more to sort of escape room type things where, yes, they might be physically tiring, but you probably wouldn't consider that a sport. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that if it's physically tiring, it counts as a sport. And I wouldn't say I agree with that. I'm a bit of a musician, and after I've done a concert, I'll be exhausted. but no one's going to go around considering that a sport. But I think it is one of those things that everyone has a different definition of, you know.
Yeah.
And speed puzzling is probably in that grey area where there will be some people who consider it, but equally a lot of people who don't.
Yeah. I think using is it physically tiring might be a little unhelpful, because I get physically tired after a long day. You know, and I'm not sure that makes every day a sport. You know, if I'm just doing computer work, but that's but that's a different thing. Well, tell me a little bit about how you felt about this puzzle. Like, did you feel like you took a lot of effort to try to get this thing done?
It's not really my type of puzzle. I'm not great at sort of photos and buildings, like a few people have said. So I did sort of look at it and, you know, open up the box and think I might be here a while. I think the last similar puzzle I did, probably the last most similar one, would be the Copenhagen one that was done at Worlds. I got myself a copy of that and did it, and it took me sort of an hour and a quarter, I think that one did. So I'm quite happy. I think the timer on my phone said just under an hour.
Hey, congrats! That's huge.
So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, breaking the hour barrier is not easy, man.
So yeah, and yeah, it's only my second one of these competitions as well. So I'm pretty happy with that time.
No, that's lovely. Congrats. You said your second time getting under an hour?
No, only my second Euro Jigsaw Jam.
Oh, okay.
But it's my first time getting under an hour on this type of puzzle. Like the ones I find easier, I often manage to get just about under the hour mark, but not often on a photo.
Hey, keep moving that line down, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you do any practicing? Like someone that was competing in a sport might do?
I mean, I would say I am a teacher and my students practice for their exams.
Oh.
Or I hope they do anyway.
Yeah. I run the same thing of you hope they're doing this stuff. But do you do any sort of preparation practice?
When I get the chance to, you know, often at the weekends when I'm not exhausted from teaching all day.
Fair enough.
So yeah, you know, I pick up what puzzles I can find, and I've been doing a bit of practice. But again, I would say that practicing for something isn't what makes it a sport either.
Well, in your mind, then, what does make something a sport?
I'm not really sure I have a concrete definition, if I'm honest.
That's totally fair. I'm just curious.
I'd probably normally go with just majority opinion. Like, sport is one of those sort of almost constructed things that, you know, like I said, everyone has a different definition of. So I would probably say, and it's a bit of a cop-out, but if most people consider it a sport, you could probably just about consider it a sport.
So it's closer to population density on the specifics on that.
Yeah. I mean, there's not really one thing that every sport has in common. You know, most are physically tiring in some way. Most are competitive.
Yeah, I would think being competitive would probably be one of the top tier classification requirements, right?
But again, I'd say that on its own, just because something doesn't make it a sport.
Well, what was it that was going around? It was like it was some competition where they were cutting pretzels in half or trying to cut things in half perfectly. And I'm not sure I would classify that as a sport, but it is certainly a mental game.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Jonathan. Sorry, just to interrupt.
Go ahead, yeah.
So I saw on your Instagram that you have another hobby. Is that correct? In knitting?
Yes.
You enjoy knitting?
Yeah, I'm a knitter and crafter as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Have you ever heard of any type of competitive knitting?
Not really. I mean, I know that one of the TV channels in the UK are doing a knitting kind of version of the bake off soon, which I guess would be competitive. But knitting is something that kind of has to be done slowly. You can't really speed knit something.
Well, or can you?
I think it would take a long time to finish.
I mean, marathons take a long time to finish.
Yeah, but like, unless it's really thick yarn, like a sweater, you're looking at maybe 100 hours.
I mean,
Wow.
So doing that in one sitting would be a bit of an ask.
it would take me well over 100 hours to run a marathon. So I'm not. might be splitting. What's the longest it's taken you to knit something?
Oh, I mean, I have various projects on the go that have been sat in a cupboard for a long time. But if you're talking actual knitting time, probably a couple of 100 hours.
Oh, that's amazing. Does it take a lot of concentration to do that, or do you sort of zone out?
Depends on what you're doing. Like, there's some that you can just zone out and do it while watching the TV or whatever. But there's some that require a lot of concentration.
That makes a lot of sense. Somebody in the comments was saying that, to me, a sport is a skill at high level. Is that a sufficient definition for you?
I think, again, that would just leave a lot of things that wouldn't be considered sport. Like,
Cooking could
knitting
be a
is
sport.
a skill at high level, and cooking is a skill. And again, my students hopefully have a skill in physics.
I mean, I've seen a lot of cooking shows where they're sweating up a storm, and there is some really high level running around and technique in order to not cut your hand off, right? Somebody was it Verena we were talking to earlier mentioned like mathletes being in a similar category as speed puzzling. And I taught physics for a long while too, so I kind of get that. I was really curious about your definition of escape room. Do you do a lot of escape rooms?
A few. That's something that I'll do with friends every so often. Yeah.
Okay. Which would you rather be stuck in more, an escape room or a very difficult jigsaw puzzle?
I think it probably depends on who's stuck in the escape room with me.
Fair enough.
As to whether I'm having to solve all the puzzles or whether there's someone who's actually good at them to help out.
It's very who's around you based.
Yes.
Okay. When you're puzzling, do you ever get to puzzle in pairs or teams?
I've done a little bit of pairs practice because a couple of people have mentioned the UK Nationals coming up. I think Verena said she was going to.
Yeah.
And I've found a puzzler nearby who we're going to pair up for that. So we've done a little bit of like practice for that, seeing how we work together and things like that. So only recently, but yeah, in the last few months since I've signed up for that, started doing a bit of pairs puzzling.
That's really cool. What does your practice look like?
It's fairly casual. It's mostly just me and her. Kind of, we didn't know each other before we found this group where we met. So it's more just getting to know each other and how we communicate and how we work together and things like that. We'll just pick whatever puzzle we happen to fancy doing and see how we go.
Do you have I know you're sort of in the beginnings. Do you guys have a person that kind of makes a lot of the high level decisions about what each person is going to work on during the puzzle? Or do you both kind of do a committee style like they might do in volleyball, where
it's both of us together, really? Like,
okay.
If one of us is struggling with whichever bit we're doing, we'll just suggest a swap.
So it's not a quarterback situation. It's more of a team decision, like basketball. Okay.
Yeah, as far as my knowledge of either basketball or American football go.
No, totally fair. Do you guys when you're picking out which puzzle you're going to work on, how much like pre-planning do you do?
very little. We'll normally just, depending on where we're meeting, one of us will have a little bit of a travel to do. So we'll just kind of each chuck a couple in a bag and see which we fancy doing when we get there, basically. It's very casual.
No, it makes that makes a lot of sense. Somebody was in the chat was mentioning that esports can count as sports. I've seen a lot of people that play video games. They put in hundreds of hours to find optimal strategies for every little thing that's inside of a game. They're doing eye tracking training to try to speed that up. Would you think that esports fall under a sports category?
I would again say probably not. Because again, there's loads of things where, even with, knitting, there's loads of, I don't class it as practice, but all the stuff I've done in the past has been learning to do very specific stitches and things like that. And therefore I've got better over time with it. But no one's going to consider that a sport.
Well, I think a lot of people have can agree on the competition aspect of it. I think it would be interesting if there was some sort of knitting competition circuit. That would be fascinating to see. Try to make a certain glove or part of a hat in a set amount of time. I think that would be fun. But I don't know enough about knitting in order to find the guide. I'm not the person to define that. But I guess when trying to define a sport, how much weight do you put on the different levers of competition versus mental exertion, physical exertion, planning, preparation? Where do different aspects kind of sit for you?
I'd say probably the physical exertion and the competition are the things that most sports do have in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
So those will probably be the two most important bits.
Okay. When you're puzzling, are you a stand-up or a sit-down person?
I vary. I probably stood up and sat down a few times during today. Depends what I'm doing. If I'm when I'm kind of looking at the whole lot at the start, when I'm flipping everything over, I'll often stand up for that. But then if I'm working on a small section or just working on a few pieces, I'll sit down just because it's more comfortable.
Okay. But you're doing the fastest parts standing up with a physical exertion, perhaps?
Again, I'd say there are things, like I said, like the first thing I said, there's aspects of physical exertion in things that definitely aren't sports.
I said,
at school, I'll often play music with some of the groups there, and I'm stood up, I'm moving around very quickly, and I'm physically tired at the end of it. And I think that my Fitbit will probably class that as me doing physical activity. But I wouldn't class it as a sport.
Okay. So I'm gonna throw you a curveball here, because in the Olympics, that kind of is the I do try to disentangle sport from Olympics, but most things in the Olympics are sports by definitions, because it has to be a sport in order to be in the Olympics, right? There is sharpshooting in the Olympics, whereby there isn't a ton of physical exertion. It is very technical, and there is a lot of muscle control and dexterity and that kind of thing involved. But I would argue that would be a sport that doesn't require a ton of physical exertion.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, physical exertion and competition are part of most sports, but not all of them.
What other sports may not require the physical exertion?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm not a huge sports person, if I'm honest. So.
That's fair.
Well, my husband does archery, and that's just a lot of standing still and aiming.
It takes quite
that's
a lot of
definitely
it's
definitely considered a sport, but doesn't have the sweat factor, but definitely requires a lot of skill and training and precision training.
does also require quite a lot of strength to pull a longbow, particularly.
Yeah, I have good posture as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about escape rooms. I know that Tammy McLeod from America, she does a lot of escape rooms, and she's a puzzler in general. She loves logic puzzles. She's been to the Sudoku World Championship, and she's also done a ton of escape rooms. I've never actually been to one. Like, what kind of puzzles are being solved?
All sorts of different things. Like, there's a lot of them will have some sort of numerical answer, but sometimes it'll be finding something that's hidden. Sometimes it'll be solving a code. Sometimes it'll be spotting some tiny little detail in the room that you wouldn't necessarily have noticed. So yeah, there's all sorts of different things, and often it depends more on the company that's running it than on anything else.
Yeah. Like sometimes there will be a map in the room, and the lock that needs to open has a certain like compass direction. And so one part of the puzzle will be filling out the map. The next part of the puzzle will be putting the combination into the lock correctly, so that way you can get to the next step. And so there's a lot of like overlap in terms of trying to figure out not just what the solution is, but what the question is in order to figure out what the solution is, which is kind of inverted from how puzzling works, in that you already know what the solution is, you just need to do the thing, right? Whereas escape rooms, you don't know what the solution is until you ask the right questions, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, well, that's something that my husband doesn't like about puzzles. He says, why take a picture, cut it into 500 pieces or 1,000 pieces, and then try to put it back together again? Like, what's the point? But I don't know, the escape room, I don't know. I'm just not very good at these kind of thinking outside the box contests. So a friend of ours brought over a board game. It was basically an escape room in a box, and you can only do it once, and then because you've already like opened the envelopes and done whatever, and it was kind of fun, but it didn't give me any interest in actually going to a physical escape room. So like, what is the attraction?
To be honest, it's more of a social thing for me. Like it's a group of people that you want to spend time with, and it's an interesting way of socializing with them, where you get to kind of see how their minds work and work together, like to complete something. It's almost a little bit more like doing a puzzle as a team, where you're kind of bouncing ideas off each other and changing strategies depending on what people suggest.
What was the hardest puzzle you've solved in an escape room?
Every so often there'll be one where it's incredibly unclear what the puzzle actually is. So there was one that I did when I was in Geneva once, where you had to like work out, you had to trace points around a bottom of a drawer. I can't remember the specific details, and that gave you numbers, but there's no real hint as to kind of that the drawer was in any way related to the rest of it or anything like that. And when there's loads of puzzles in the same room, it's often like linking together what things you need to put together. That's the tricky bit, rather than actually solving the puzzle one. Once you know what the puzzle is, you can solve it fairly easily normally. It's working out what you're supposed to do in the first place that is often quite difficult.
Yeah. There's also an aspect for escape rooms where being in the room itself can be really immersive and kind of fun. Like there's one nearby here called Art Heist, and so the premise is you go in and you're thieves and you want to steal like a special jewel that's inside of the art room, and they designed multiple rooms where you actually go into an art museum, and they made all the art themselves, so that way it works with the escape room and everything. And you have to like bend a hanger in order to get to a key lock, kind of a thing. And the immersion in there is fun as well. So it's not just a like here's a crossword puzzle and we've locked you into the room. There's a little bit of like role playing stuff that you can play up to, which is pretty fun.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds, yeah, more like an experience. And
Yeah.
I just, the idea of just being locked in a room and like, I don't know, that there's kind of like the certain stress. And then because my brain doesn't work like that, like I've done an exit puzzle. I've done like 2 exit puzzles now where the image doesn't match what you have. Yeah, you've got to basically see the scene afterwards. You build that scene and then there are like numbers like kind of like around, and like I had no idea. I looked at the numbers and I looked at the clues in the image and then could not see in any way how they were connected. And when I read the answers, it was like, how would I ever have come up with that? Yeah, do you like the kind of the exit puzzles or the...
I've done 1 or 2 of them and I quite enjoyed them. I've got another one waiting to be done at the moment. And yeah, I quite enjoyed those. I find that linked to what you said, I find the pressure helps me work out the puzzle. So the fact that, you know, in an escape room, you are actually locked in and there's like an hour time limit. You know, that helps my brain switch on very much. And also the fact that you get to bounce ideas off other people. So you might not spot something, but someone is in there with you, you know, might realize half of the problem and then you manage to piece it together, which is quite a nice, as I said, it's a nice social thing to do as well.
Yeah, so regarding like different puzzles, I mean, the exit puzzles, they also have, you have an image that's different to the one on the box. I notice you have Buzzjig behind you.
Yeah.
Is that also something you really enjoy?
I haven't actually done too many of them. I've picked up a few recently in at charity shops and sales. So they're waiting to be tried. My mum actually was a big fan of Wozgich. So I've often got them for her as sort of Christmas and birthday presents. So yeah, I thought I'd pick up a few to try. I haven't actually done them yet.
For the uninitiated, what is a Buzzjig?
So Wozgich is there's various different types, but it's sort of a cartoony image, and the puzzle is actually what someone on the box is looking at. So you get an image on the box, and then there's a character that you kind of have your attention drawn to, and the picture is what are they looking at.
That's
there'll
cool.
be hints in the art on the box, but it won't be the same thing.
That's really neat. I like that. I like that as like a twist on the normal setup. That's fun.
Yeah, I do think it will be interesting to have one as a speed puzzle at some point.
Oh.
It will be quite cruel.
Well, I was
it
actually
depends.
thinking of like interesting, fun speed puzzling competitions. I was thinking maybe we should do a Buzzjig sometime. Because actually this weekend we did a puzzle. It's not a Buzzjig, but it's a similar theme where it's like the image is not on the box and you have to imagine what happens a bit later or what is about to happen. And then that's the image that you got to piece together. Yeah. So somebody says, so Graham Guzza says, in my opinion, exit puzzles are bad puzzles and bad escape rooms.
Tell us how you really feel, though.
And Matt says he bought one on Vinted. The person who sold it to him forgot to put the instructions in the box, so he didn't even know what to do. The seller, the seller said that her children may have removed it. Yeah,
that would make it more of a challenge.
Yeah, that just puts it immediately on extreme mode.
So I have to say, actually, the part that I enjoyed the most about the exit puzzle was that the piece size was bigger. Somehow it just, because I did these puzzles in my lunchtime, and so I'm basically eating a salad with one hand and I'm kind of popping in some pieces with the other hand, and I just found the piece size just nice and chunky. So that, for me, I just did the puzzle and just popped it back in, and it can go into the to sell pile. Yeah, so I just want to point out we have just over 8 minutes left, and Richard and Lindsay are still going, and you both have a really good chance, like just those two little, like the top corner for Lindsay and this middle patch for Richard. So go. We really want to see the both of you finish. And
You can do it.
Yeah, doing really great.
We believe. No, coming into that last that last chunk of the puzzle is always rough because you're physically tired. You've exerted a lot of energy. You're trying to get that like extra little bit of concentration going. I a couple of years ago, I ran in a half marathon, and that was a bad decision that I don't want to do again. Because I feel like you should only run if you're being chased, and I've learned a lot in that, and that is you know, towards the end, it's just a matter of keep putting one foot in front of the other in order to get to that finish line. And whenever you're coming towards the end of a puzzle like this, especially after you've been fatigued for a while, is very similar. It's like, okay, what is the hole that I can see on the puzzle? Let me find the piece that fits the hole, put it in the hole, right? And sort of switching the lenses between, do I want to fill the hole or do I want to find where this particular piece goes? And just alternating back and forth between those two views can help you kind of push through to the end there. Jonathan, whenever you're coming in towards the close of a puzzle, do you have any strategies or thoughts as you're trying to like blitz the last little bit?
I mean, with this one, it was that top corner that a lot of people struggled with that I can see Lindsay working on. And for me, I was just looking at all the kind of knobs and ins and outs of slightly different shapes. So I was very much, once I was down to sort of the last 20 or 30 pieces, I was just looking for any of those that I could see in the pile of remaining pieces. And I found that worked reasonably well with this, where the cut is fairly unique. Like it's not all exactly the same shape, which was good. So yeah, that definitely got me through the last bit of this one. But yeah, sometimes if it sort of patches all over the place, if I've just got one or two pieces here and there across the image, it'll be picking up a piece and just seeing where the hole for that particular piece happens to be. But yeah, with this one, I was definitely looking at the edges, at the kind of negative space that I had left, and seeing what would fit in there.
Yeah, using a lens of just going pure shape work goes a long way whenever you're coming into the last bit, especially if it's like super flat color that doesn't have a lot of variance in it. You mentioned that you teach physics students. Do you ever use like stats and probabilities and sort of that realm of STEM knowledge to help your puzzling?
Not so much with puzzling now. Sometimes there'll be a case of like working out how many pieces it should be in each direction or something like that. But even then, that's more from experience of doing puzzles than anything else. Unless the puzzle is specifically science related, it doesn't really come into it.
You kind of split it.
Yeah,
I think it's I've had a lot of fun doing some of those kinds of mathematical analysis on things, because you can make estimates of how many pieces is this going to be, and sort of some Becca Taylor in the US calls it lowering the noise of a puzzle, right? Figuring out what is the most likely type of piece that's going to help me put this together, right? Because you can make those estimates early on, grab that, and then that gives you a pretty good shot at getting a bunch of things together, rather than going, okay, I'm going to get all of the things that are green. Well, that's probably way too many pieces, and you're going to add a couple extra touches on there. So I get joy out of that. What is the most exciting part about puzzling for you?
I just kind of enjoy the whole process, really. I wouldn't say there's one bit that I enjoy more than others. I just have always enjoyed putting puzzles together. And then over the summer, found out about speed puzzling and sort of thought I'd give it a go and see if I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed that too. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's one specific bit of the process that I enjoy more than others.
what sort of what aspects of puzzling do you enjoy? You don't have to like name your favorite, but like what sort of things get you going?
I always enjoy when you've got a few bits and pieces that you've put sort of small patches together and managing to get those together when you realize how they actually fit into the rest of the whole thing. That's always a nice feeling. And yeah, completing one that you found particularly challenging or that had taken a particularly long time. Just the process of putting something together has always been appealing to me. That's why I like sort of the crafting and things as well. It's the same sort of enjoyment that I get out of it.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Just the process of creation is really cool.
Mm.
And we could see that Richard and Lindsay are creating the end of this puzzle. I think Richard's going to be able to pull it off.
Go! You're so close. Come on.
Richard's excited. He's already moving a little faster, coming into the close here. He can smell the ending. Oh, he's got one more. There's only maybe about 8 or 10 pieces left, and we have about 2 minutes remaining. I think he's going to be able to pull it off. Lindsay, we're rooting for you. You can just keep those hands moving a little faster. You can get it. I believe in you. Richard's getting every piece that he picks up is now going right in. You can see that because everything is like spaced out, and he gets it. Congratulations, Richard! Underneath the timeline, super duper exciting.
Well done, Richard.
Make sure to hit done. Make sure to hit done. That way we can get you. Oh man, it's so exciting whenever lots of people are able to finish or get really close. Lindsay, you're right on the edge. I know that these kinds of things are tricky in that flat area, but you can do it. Richard, hit done. Do the done message. Do it. Good save, Michelle.
Yeah.
With an assist.
So, Jonathan, just tell us what's exciting coming up for you, puzzling related. What are you looking forward to?
So the next thing I've got is the UK Nationals at the start of April. That's going to be quite an interesting one. It's literally the day after I finish teaching for the Easter holidays. So we'll see how my energy levels are. But I'm looking forward to that. It'll be my first in-person competition, so that'll be a bit different. So yeah, that should be a really good event.
Yeah, that's great. You get to do that. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
you can
3,
do it.
2,
One more piece.
1, stop. Oh, so close, Lindsay.
Congratulations, Lindsay.
So close. Yeah.
Very, very, very well done.
Oh, so just count up how many pieces you have left.
You did the thing. That chunk is not easy to do at all. Like that. If whenever you watch back, like Victor, whenever he was in that chunk, that took him the longest to do out of everything in there. So congratulations. That was really, really, really well done. That's not an easy part of this puzzle at all.
Yeah. So well done. Well, maybe have a bit of a break, and then you can go back and put those last 18 pieces in, and just get that one out of the way. So first competition for Lindsay. Well, we're glad to have you, and you can. Now you've got a benchmark, and hopefully next time you'll get in just under the limit. So thanks for joining us. And Richard disappeared, but he's back. But we got your finish. We got your finish on the screen. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks Jonathan for joining us and chatting with us at the end. And
thanks.
All the
Good luck at UK Nationals. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck for the UK Nationals. Your first in-person competition. And thanks to those following along on YouTube. And we'll see you at the next competition. Let me just double check when that is.
I hope you can record my having completed it. My keyboard has stopped working, Michelle.
Yeah.
We got you squared away. Michelle bopped you down. So
yeah,
That's
Well,
the first time I've ever finished in the 2 hours.
Congratulations!
well, you had like 2 minutes to spare, so you did really well. So I've just made a note. We'll check the video, and I know that it was like screen kept flipping or was getting locked, something like that. So yeah, the next competition is on Thursday, which will be hang on, I'm looking at the wrong. Oh yes, next Thursday the 20th. That will be a flex competition, so there won't be a live stream for that one.
But it'll still be fun, so be there or be a parallelogram.
All right, thanks everyone, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye.
Bye
Thanks a lot. Congrats, everybody.